Hello and welcome to Weekly Disappointments Guide to Leading a Full Clear of Castle Nathria. In this video, we will be going over important things to remember to ensure a smooth run. These strategies were developed and written by the Raids team, produced by Johnny Napalm, and voiced by Crazy Puck. First up is Shriekwing. This boss is pretty straightforward and pretty simple, so you can just use whatever strategy and positioning your guild is already comfortable with. The following strategy is what will be used by the in-house runs. Set up 3 markers: orange by the front left pillar for tanks to stand on, a purple marker between the front 2 pillars, and a blue marker between the left 2 pillars. Tanks will stand on orange with the boss facing away from purple. The raid will start on the purple side of the boss. When Echoing Screech comes out, the raid will shift to the blue side of the boss to avoid the circles. When Ear-Splitting Shriek comes out, hide behind the pillar and then the raid goes back to purple. Rinse and repeat until the boss dies. Oh, and we strongly suggest just using Bloodlust on the pool. The next boss is Huntsman Altamore. You'll want to have one tank keep the boss in the front middle of the room, and the other tank should be prepared to bring the second dog to the left side of the room for the Rip Souls and the Shades. Pre-assign a few people to do the crowd controlling on the Shades. Hunter traps are one of the best options here. Monk paralysis also lasts very long. Mages should be used as a backup in case the Shade is broken for any reason, because Polymorph can be spam cast. You'll want to lust during the second dog, roughly 1.5 to 2 minutes into the fight. Ideally, this will help you skip the second set of Shades. Moving on to Hungering Destroyer, you'll want to set up 2 markers for your team and 1 marker for the buyers. Place the yellow marker directly behind the boss, a red marker placed to the front left of the boss, and a blue marker to the front right of the boss. The buyers will stand on the red, the raid will stand on the yellow. You'll take the volatile ejection, which is the big blue laser beams, over to the right side towards blue. Buyers will be off to the left on the red with any of the lines they get. We recommend lusting on pool. Moving down to Lady Enerva Darkvein, you'll want to put a marker in the front of the room near the boss on flat ground. The tank should pull the boss onto the marker and then leave her there for the first bit of the fight. Something convoke Z-axis, something my wild spirits. Ranged DPS can get very butthurt and kind of pout a lot here. If you as the raid leader are a tank or a healer that does not feel comfortable opening canisters, assign someone to open them throughout the fight when needed to keep canisters from overflowing. Finally, remember to pre-open the canisters before the boss transitions. The boss transitions to each canister at 25% health on her. This is important as most of your wipes on the boss will be contributed to either the buyers not dying or the canisters getting too full later in the fight. Keep an eye on their level and be prepared to call if the vials will bounce, which is canister 2 at 66%, the lines are going to be spinning, which is canister 3 at 66%, or the ad circles getting rooted, which is canister 4 above 33%. People will forget the vials bounce and not be prepared to soak the bounce. They'll forget that the lines spin. People will forget to start moving towards the boss when they're going to get rooted. Just make sure to give out the helpful handy reminders. You'll want to lust either on the pool or at 2 minutes. At 2 minutes, it's safer if your raid is a little bit lower on the DPS spectrum or just a few more buyers as the later canisters won't overflow. But if you have strong DPS comp in your raid, you're good to lust very early on in the fight. Moving on over to Artificer Zymox. The buyers will be alive for most of the first minute of this fight, so you need to make sure that if any of them get the portals and they end up in a weird place, that your raid is aware and able to adjust. You might not be able to rely on the portals to avoid the ghosts. Pre-assign 4 or 5 mobile players to move the seeds. I can guarantee you, if you don't assign players for the seeds, everybody in the raid is going to assume someone else is getting them and keep tunneling, and the seeds will explode and you'll all go splat. Don't do that. Just tell people to take care of the seeds. Finally, remember that the boss phases at 40% going into Annihilation. You'll want to place the portals in phase 3 positioning when getting close to or below that 40%. This is another fight where we suggest lusting on pull. For a change of pace, we're going down to Sun King Kel'Thas. For Kel'Thas, if any of your DPS are able to swap to healers, have up to 2 of them do so. That'll help push the boss into the phases a little bit faster. When the Shade of Kel'Thas comes out, you'll want to take it to the back right of the room, move along the right hand side, keep as much of the fire there as possible, and then when the second one of the shades comes out, you'll then use the left side of the room, which should be mostly open. Fire actually doesn't go away on heroic, that's a normal mode mechanic, so you'll want to make sure you do pay attention where the fire is and keep it sustained. Bouncing on down to Council, you'll want to have 2 markers in the room here. One red one off to the side for the buyers to stand on, and then a marker behind the boss for the raid to stack on. Since most of the raiders doing boosts here in WD have killed this on Mythic, they'll pretty much just autopilot and run counterclockwise around the boss if they get Dark Recital. Your standard kill order here is going to be Frida, Stavros, then Nicholas, and you'll want to lust when Stavros dies. As you can see in this animation here, it'll show where you want Stavros to be so he can be brought back to the group and then be killed. You'll want to have the active tank angle him 90 degrees away from the raid so the launch will go right in front of everybody. Moving on to the final stretch of the raid, we're at Sludgefist now. You'll want to let the raiders know that if they're paired with a buyer, they might have to run towards the tank in an attempt to get their buyers to die quickly. Ranged need to be prepared to run into melee so their chain isn't instantly broken if they're connected with a buyer. If they are and you have any paladins in the raid, they should use Bop on the ranged player. You'll want to have the raid start over by the front left pillar. From there, you'll move clockwise around the room following each one of the boss's charges. You should lust on the first pillar, as everyone will be alive by this point. Trust me, if you try to wait until pillar 3, someone will be dead, and you'll be missing their DPS during lust. Just lust first pillar. Climbing up the stairs, we arrive at the Stone Legion Generals, everyone's most beloved fight. You'll want to set up markers as shown in the animation here. Tank the boss on the skull, and the raid will stack behind the boss at green, and you'll take the crystallized to orange, which is offset from melee. This is so the melee can continue DPSing the boss and not get stunned immediately if they don't need to. You'll want to take the Wicked Blade over to purple and blue. Make sure no one else is on the left side of the boss. Have the reverberating eruptions in phase 2 and phase 3 be placed on the right side of the boss, between moon and star. Emphasize that double soaking can be risky. We recommend not letting people do that. We also highly recommend calling out eruptions before they happen so your raiders have enough time to get the soaks, and also enough time for people to run over there if something goes wrong. You should also be vocal about soaking crystallizes, as people tend to slack off during the transition phases and especially the last burn phase. You should pop Bloodlust in the last phase to nuke down both bosses at the same time. After Stone Legion, you arrive finally at Sire Nathria. This boss needs a little bit more explanation than we're going to go to into this video, so we actually have our own dedicated AOTC guide with all of our specific strategy that we recommend you use for Sire Nathria when boosting. And that's the whole raid. If you are new to boosting with Weekly Disappointment, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Let's all make ourselves some gold. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you get notifications anytime we release a new one of our Weekly Disappointment boosting guide videos. See you next time.